In an age of space-age fabrics, ultralight insulation, and $1,000 four-season sleeping bags, it sounds almost absurd to claim that a World War II-era sleeping system could outperform modern gear. Yet field reports, veteran accounts, and modern cold weather reenactments all point to the same surprising conclusion. The WWII sleeping bag arrangement wasn't just good for its time, it was brutally effective and in some scenarios, still beats modern systems hands down. This wasn't about luxury or comfort, it was about survival. During World War II, Allied soldiers fought and slept in some of the harshest environments on Earth, from the frozen forests of the Ardennes to damp European hedgerows and wind-scoured Pacific islands. Equipment had to work reliably, be repairable in the field, and keep a soldier alive when temperatures plunged and resupply was uncertain. The result was a layered sleeping system that modern outdoor gear designers are only now rediscovering. Unlike today's single, do-it-all sleeping bags, World War II armies issued modular sleeping arrangements. The U.S. system typically consisted of let's break down the components. A wool blanket or liner, a down or cotton-filled sleeping bag, a canvas or water-resistant outer bivvy, and sometimes, a ground sheet or shelter half beneath it all. This kind of layering, allowed soldiers to adapt to wildly changing conditions. Cold but dry, just use the inner bag and wool liner. Wet and windy, add the outer shell, and if it was extreme cold, well, everything went on at once. Modern sleeping bags, honestly, often fail here. They're optimized for a pretty narrow temperature range. Once they get wet, compressed, or damaged, performance drops sharply. World War II systems, though, assumed things would go wrong, and were built to handle it. So, modern insulation is really obsessed with weight savings, but back in World War II, gear was all about reliability, and honestly, wool was king. Here's the thing, wool actually retains warmth even when it's wet. It resists compression better than a lot of modern synthetics too. And yeah, it doesn't just lose insulating value the moment moisture gets in. Soldiers could sweat, snow could melt, rain could seep in. And den de kan dan. Bestenen kan be ad dan kan stand the scene. Den and den bird. Would still keep them insulated. Now, if you contrast that with modern down bags, you get these incredible warmth-to-weight ratios, but just one soaking night can turn them into, basically, expensive blankets with zero thermal value. World War II designers totally understood this, which is why down was always protected inside layers, rather than left exposed as a single point of failure. The World War II sleeping arrangement actually followed the same principle used in cold weather clothing. Layering traps air, and, well, trapped air is insulation. Multiple layers create these dead air spaces that, honestly, reduce heat loss way more efficiently than just one thick layer. Modern mummy bags, they rely on loft alone, but once that loft gets compressed, by your body weight, poor ground insulation, or even a tight tent, heat escapes really fast. World War II soldiers often slept on wool blankets or straw, not just inside their bags. Ground insulation was considered just as important as overhead warmth, and, today a lot of campers still underestimate how much heat they lose to the ground. Modern gear is actually pretty fragile by comparison. World War II sleeping bags were, well, stitched with heavy thread. They were designed so you could repair them right there in the field. Plus, they were big enough that you could sleep in them with your clothing on. And yeah, they were even compatible with boots, weapons, and packs inside the bag. Modern bags are, honestly, tight, specialized, and really intolerant of misuse. Try sleeping in wet clothes inside a modern ultralight mummy bag, and, well, just see how fast the loft disappears. World War II systems actually assumed soldiers would sleep in damp uniforms, and they compensated for that. So, temperature ratings. let's talk about how things have changed. Modern sleeping bag ratings are honestly often a bit optimistic, since they're usually based on controlled lab conditions. Back in World War II, gear didn't have that kind of marketing luxury. If a system didn't actually work out in the field, well, soldiers suffered, or even died. Veterans reported staying functional at temperatures that would totally overwhelm a lot of modern rated bags. Why is that? Because, at the end of the day, systems matter way more than just specs. You know, a bag, liner, shell, and ground insulation all working together will always outperform a single piece of high-tech gear used alone. Ever wonder why modern gear makers quietly borrow World War II ideas? If you look closely at today's military and expedition equipment, you'll notice modular sleep systems, removable liners, waterproof bivvy covers, and, yeah, a real emphasis on redundancy. So, these aren't really new ideas. They're actually just refined versions of World War II concepts, repackaged with modern materials and, honestly, higher price tags. It's interesting, but civilian outdoor markets often lag behind military logic. They tend to prioritize weight and marketing appeal over things like durability and adaptability. So, here's the big lesson we kind of forgot. World War II sleeping systems weren't really designed to be lightweight. They were built to work, night after night, no matter what Mother Nature threw at you. They really leaned into some core ideas: redundancy over minimalism, layering instead of just one solution, and honestly, reliability over whatever comfort marketing was out there. In the most extreme conditions, those principles still come out on top. Sure, modern gear is awesome for weekend trips or when everything's under control, but when things get rough, like wet cold, biting wind, or long exposure, the old World War II sleeping bag setup proves that sometimes old solutions weren't primitive at all. They were just straightforward and honest. And, honesty out there in the cold, that's what really keeps you alive.